So today we're going to make banana nut muffins. If you're allergic to nuts or don't like nuts, you don't have to add them in this recipe. And you can also substitute the nuts for chocolate chips. So it's an awesome universal recipe. So when your bananas are starting to look like this, what do we do with them? In baking, it's great to use them for cakes, muffins, or even bread. I'm gonna do the muffins today because it's easier for like my little ones to eat them, and I can keep them in the refrigerator up to a week really fresh, or I can also freeze them for a couple months at a time and just pull out the ones we need. So I have my ingredients here. I have all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups. I have a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of baking powder. So two leavening agents in here. And this is common in some recipes, especially when you're working with quick breads. So I have a single acting leavening agent and then that double acting. And then I have a teaspoon of cinnamon and a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I had packed brown sugar, 2/3 of a cup. I have my nuts ready to go. Melted butter, 6 tablespoons. 1 egg, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of milk. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go ahead and add our bananas into the bowl. And this is the best time to use these bananas. So you can mash these a couple different ways. You can put them in the blender and mash them. You can just hand mash them with a fork, or even a kitchen masher, hand masher. Wipe my hands really quick. Or what we're going to do today is we're going to use our hand mixer. So I have my electric hand mixer back here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to whip these up. And look how easy they mash. You don't want to try to make banana bread or cakes or anything in baking if they are not that color. What happens is the flavor isn't there and it doesn't develop, and then the moisture content is different as well. So in my bowl I have my 3 bananas, and I'm going to go ahead and start adding my other liquids, and the brown sugar is going to go in this stage as well. I am doing the muffin mixing method, so I'm doing all my wet in a bowl, and then we're going to have all our dry in a bowl, and then we're going to add them. So I'm going to step over here, you'll see me in the background, just because my cord doesn't reach that far. I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs and milk, and whip those up. And then I'm going to incorporate my melted butter. And then my brown sugar. Just low speed. You don't need to be on a high whipping speed for this. You don't want to make a mess. So then I'm going to come over to here, and I have my spatula ready. And to not overmix, I'm going to use my spatula to mix this stage. In some recipes, they'll tell you to go ahead and continue using your hand mixer. Okay, so I have my wet and dry in here, and I just zoomed in so you can have a better look. So I'm just going to be mixing these together, folding them in. You don't want to overmix quick bread recipes. If you do, 1, you could lose a lot of your CO2 gas that you're producing with your chemical leaveners. And 2, you can start to develop that gluten, and you might get a very dense product, and that's not where we're aiming for. We want a moist, light, and fluffy product when we do quick breads, or flaky if we're doing like the biscuit method. The cinnamon in this recipe really helps the flavor. They smell delicious right now. So once I know it's thoroughly combined, I'm going to go ahead and add my nuts. And you can do chocolate chips. Walnuts, pecans are always good in banana. I would have added more. I only had a 1/2 cup. A cup would have been perfect for this size. This recipe is going to give me 10 to 12 muffins. I have my muffin pan ready to go. I filled the liners, and my oven is already preheated at 425. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm using a portion scoop to make sure that all of my size muffins are the same size so they bake evenly. That is huge in baking. We want to make sure that everything's getting done at the same time. And I can flip my pan around. That just helps so you're not carrying the scoop over more of your tray. I'm just gonna add a little bit more in each one just to use up my batter. So these are gonna bake at 425 for 5 minutes. We're doing a flash of high heat at the beginning just to get that that CO2 of the leavening agents trapped. This is just for this recipe. My other recipes for quick breads, I usually just put in at 350 and they are great and they turn out fine. And then I'm gonna turn it down after 5 minutes. I'm gonna turn down to 350. And we are going to bake the rest of the time at 350, and that's gonna take about 15 minutes. So 20 minutes of baking total for this recipe. But always check with a toothpick when you're done. So when you have them all ready to go, I'm gonna go ahead and stick them in the oven and get them baking.